Hi, my name is Dave Cuthbertson. I'm the CEO and one of the original founders of AssetGen, and I'm going to take you through a quick tour of the AssetGen Connect system. On the right hand side you can see that the Connect system focuses on the physical infrastructure, covering hardware, cabling, rooms, buildings, and is complementary to our other product called AssetGen Sysmap, which looks more at the virtual infrastructure that lives above the hardware. That's covered in a separate video, so I'm going to cover how the Connect system works and show you various examples of functionality in the system. Most people buy AssetGen Connect because there is a problem with resource and time to deliver projects, but also availability of people, and also part of all of that is the cost of actually delivering changes into the infrastructure, because if you don't trust your documentation, you'll probably go and do a site survey or you're going to re-audit just to get information you have more confidence in. So the way we approach this is we're going to document the infrastructure with less effort, because we're going to use a database to replace thousands of spreadsheets, and from that database we're going to achieve and create lots of different types of diagrams and systems. Many customers already use Visio. They don't necessarily want retraining, and they like its flexibility to cover different types of schematics within the IT environments, but there's many hundreds of them, so we will automate the production of diagrams, and I've got a simple case there of rack layouts where we reduce the production and also the updating from hours down to seconds, or from days down to minutes, so that we can automate this process across a large infrastructure. And finally, if we're going to centralize our planning and control and management functions for IT, or we have a service provider that we're involved in and we're making use of part-time or temporary contract staff, we need to give them local IT understanding to allow them to plan and manage changes as well as faults and problems. So AssetGen will very quickly enable understanding of physical location, positioning, connectivity, as well as history, even down to the labels on the cables. What you don't want to do is to end up with the situation, as you see with this guy, where he's trying to work it out after the event, in the midst of actually trying to deliver a project where people want him to do it quickly. And so the whole point about our system is to be able to plan and manage large complex infrastructures, like most of our customers, without having to actually go and mess around and touch any of the existing infrastructure if possible. AssetGen Connect has two main versions. There's a desktop single user version, often used by consultants and smaller environments, and it can run on a physical or virtual PC and is licensed by the numbers of devices. The multi-user server version is used normally for larger environments and is used for operational management and support. It's also licensed in a very similar way, so you can have as many users as you like because it's licensed by, yet again, the numbers of devices in the database. A key thing for new customers is that we can take the desktop database and migrate that very simply and easy to a server platform, so it allows people to get a quick start where it may take a long time to get a server installed or up and running in a very tightly controlled environment like financial services or government or military. So we can start quickly because the database is the same for both. And quite a few customers do buy both desktop and multi-user versions to give them flexibility. AssetGen has many different scopes. Most people tend to use it for data centers, particularly from an operational perspective. So once you implement it, you use it for many, many years. And it will also do offices, campus environments, it will do outside plant, inside plant, and is used also a lot by service providers who manage customer environments from a remote support center. There may be some on-site people, but the vast majority of the control and the planning and expertise is all in some form of service or support center. A quite separate way that AssetGen is used is from a project perspective, because of the convenience of being able to pull together information that already exists, cover any gaps, and use that to plan some form of major transformation or decommissioning project, or maybe we might be insourcing or outsourcing. So we offer time-limited licenses, normally to consultants and integration companies, where it's not their responsibility to keep things up to date, but they need to do a complex job very, very quickly. It's also very useful if you have to go and assess existing risks and there's no existing information, where we want to look and understand the physical environments and also create some form of baseline and understand how management control is performed of all the various components in our system. So let's move to AssetGen. We'll start looking at the client interface. So this is the AssetGen system. We arrange the database in a structure with a hierarchy, as you can see there. The top level can be customer, it could be country, it's up to you really, and then we break it down into the various components, buildings, rooms, cabinets, equipments, all the way down to individual ports and connections. We can fill the whole database from 4 load spreadsheets, so rather than actually having to go and do things the normal way, the actual amount of data is actually very small in any environment, so most people will bulk load information in 4 spreadsheets. All we need to do is help you work out how to fill them in as much as possible from existing information sources or monitoring systems. Every component and device that you see there has some common information, so we'll start at the cabinet level. On the right hand side we can see this cabinet has a name, a width and a depth and a height. This allows us to then work out the sizing to put onto floor plans. This allows us, when we're implementing equipment in the racks, to be able to actually draw the rack layout so we know how high it is. For every component, including cabinets, you then have attributes that you can change and evolve over time for control and management purposes, maybe even technical details. It's up to you what you want to put in. We also enable you to link to existing documents. In this case, I've linked to a photo, so that this may help people avoid a site survey, but there's often the difficulty of finding them, and so quite often AssetGen will point to existing sources of information to save time as much as actually to hold information itself. This tab called Cabinet Diagram, this shows the layout of the rack, and if we hover over any component you can see what the name of that device is, and this corresponds to what you see on the left hand side. So we can see where there is space, and I can zoom in and show a little bit more detail of the actual U positions. We try and keep this as simple as possible because this is also the same in the web interface, which also is both write access as well as read access. So the key thing there is to keep it as simple and to make it easy for people to pick up if they've not used it for some time. If we go down to equipment level, we'll see very similar tabs. We have some more information about this particular device, this server. We have some positioning information at the bottom here, and this allows us to place it in the rack and also then to be able to draw rack layouts showing exactly where it is and how high it is. Also attributes, and you can customize this on a per device basis, as well as also have documents. We may have user manuals, test results if it's cabling or commissioning information, recovery plans. The key thing there is AssetGen just doesn't sit by itself. It's there to help you understand and manage your environment, and one of those is to find existing information. On the left hand side, if you want to go into a bit more detail, we can click on any port. In this case I've clicked on an Ethernet port, and I can do a port trace that shows the connectivity of that server through the infrastructure to a switch. If I go back to the port here, we can see the type of port. If I now go back to the server and do a port trace at a server level, this will show all the endpoints, and we can see that the server is connected to a number of SAN switches, data switches and power strips, because we can do both data and power. All of these are hyperlinked, so if I want to jump around I can click on switch number 5, click on that. On the left hand side it's now taken us to that switch, and if I go and do a port trace on the right hand side, this now takes us and shows us all the connectivity of that switch. It's got various Unix systems and blade servers and other devices. And very much with the server, I can get a complete breakdown of every single port on that switch. I can see the cabinets I would need to go to either install or decommission this switch. I can see all of the components and the types and the ports involved, and I can see on the right hand side, if you label the cables, I can see the labels on the cables, so that then there is no mistakes, no misunderstandings. We can easily centrally plan and get somebody to locally build because we're giving them clear enough instructions. This is also available in various spreadsheet type of outputs. So from this data I can understand where everything is and how it all connects together, and then also make changes. So let's make a change and just show you the process. What I'll do is go back to the first server we were dealing with, in this case server win 001, and I'll create a new one and put it in the rack so you can see the process. So the first thing is I just want another one of these, so let's clone or take this device, and it's a good technique to use reference devices, and I'll call it new server. Take out its name. I'll change the status to be planned so we can get capacity reports to see what's planned and what's live, and I'll change the position to position 45, which will put it in the top of the rack, and we'll check to make sure it can go in the rack, and you can see it's placed it there. If I now look at the rack layout, you can now see that we have space in the top of the rack being occupied by a new server, and to produce a Visio diagram of this I just do a right click on the rack, click Cabinet Diagram and click Draw. This will now extract information about everything in that rack, match it up with the Visio stencil that you can see on the right hand side, and that's how we produce a rack diagram. Anywhere we produce the same output, and if I zoom in, you'll see that we've now got the new server in the top of the rack in position 45. You can't do it that fast manually, but the now thing is we've also entered information into an audit trail, and we've also produced a rack diagram that's consistent with what's in the database. So let's go back. We created one rack layout. If I wanted to create more, I tick more boxes. That would create 3 rack diagrams. If I click the computer room, that would create all the racks in the computer room in one Visio file. And likewise, if I click Birmingham, all racks in all equipment rooms and computer rooms in Birmingham would be in one file. We can automate that process and draw all of these every night, something you can't do manually. And this way you can start to trust the information because you know it's coming from a source with an audit trail. As I said, any changes would be in an audit trail. If I click on this server, for instance, here, and I click on Audit Log, we can see that this server, we've had various changes. Some of them have been done today, the 18th of February 2020, where we've changed the callout, we've changed the IP address, we've changed the Visio shape which we're using to represent that device. All of that's in an audit log with any connectivity, positional, decommission, installation, any changes, as well as any logs that you bring information in from other places. So that's a quick overview of some of the functionality. Just to go through some others, you can see there's various menus at the top here. The search menu allows you to find things quickly by equipment or by cable IDs. Connections allows you to patch information, but also allows you to connect patch panels and data outlets and other things together. Diagrams allows you to create different types of schematics. We've just seen one of them, which is rack layouts, but I'll show you a couple of other options. Planning allows us to find resources without having to do reports, like where can I put a server, what cabinets have got space and connectivity already available for me, or maybe complex impact analysis. We have reports. There's lots of standard reports that you get with the system, but also under utilities we also have the ability to export into spreadsheets various types of reports to feed into other systems or to create our own custom reports on equipment or cabinets or power utilization or port capacity. There's many different ways that we can export information out to feed into other tool sets or produce other information sets in addition to the Visio diagramming. And so lots of capabilities. To show you some of the schematics, I'll just show you through a few examples. So here's an example of a floor plan of a data center. When we create these floor plans, we also embed data in the shapes, so you can use Visio's facilities to show, for instance, the function of the cabinets and color code them, or to create your own dashboards to show port utilization. Other types of outputs and systems, as you may want to draw network diagrams, but potentially many hundreds, because you may want one for every building, and you have hundreds of buildings. And the same with racks. You may want to overlay information in AssetGen to see where things are, such as wireless hotspots, in this case security cameras, data outlets, where I want to see and understand the positions of equipment in user areas or in remote branches, to save me trying to explain to somebody remotely when I've never been there myself. And there's many other different types of schematics and outputs that you can get from our system, which you'll see covered in other videos. So I hope that sort of gives you a flavour of the flexibility of the system, and of course you can use our system with standard Visio diagrams, not just the ones that we create as well for you. So back to PowerPoint. So what should the next steps be? We'd recommend, if possible, you try and assess your current position just to see what would you really like and how much do you trust at the moment, so that then you can see where the value comes from our system. Contact us through either the AssetGen or the Square Mile Systems websites, and the best thing is to arrange an introduction or online demo. This is the process that works for every organisation that's ever bought our software. There's always been some contact with us, and then we've talked through what their current position is and where they would like to get to. There is a time-limited evaluation version that you might like to actually try, but a lot of customers actually just go straight and say, we've seen enough. Obviously it's quite a mature product. It's been around for about 15 years now. We'd like to actually discuss with you an implementation plan and have a cost proposal so we can then work out how we're going to take this forward. So please contact us and discuss. We've been doing this for many years, and as you can see, while we're based in England, we actually deal worldwide. Thank you very much for your time.